Everybody, it's Casual Boops coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be covering the T110E3, one of the two American Tier 10 tank destroyers on the tech tree, the other one being the T110E4, which is has a semi-traversable turret and is way not as good, but the E3 is fantastic. And also, thank you for watching this video. If you're watching my videos and you like the things, watch the previous one and watch to the end, guys. Watch to the end. Anyways, getting into this one, we're going to jump straight into the stats here. This thing is going to be on track starting, let's see, I'm recording this on the 3rd. It's going to be on track for the entire month of August, I think. And so this is a great time if you don't have this line ground out. This is a good time to do it. So this is part of the reason I'm going to cover the tank, and the whole line is fantastic. We'll cover the line too in very briefly. And yeah, so okay, let's get into it. Okay, so we're gonna do something a little bit different right now. If you don't watch anything other than this video, this part of the intro or whatever, I've just got this little clip here that perfectly kind of exemplifies what the E3 is all about. It is a tank destroyer, but it's not meant to be sitting in the back sniping. It's meant to be up front, and it's meant to be brawling, and it's meant to be pushing, and it's slow, and it's got a lot of armor on the front. And so it has a really, really good gun. And so this just little microcosm of what you're about to see. Just a couple minutes here of look at this. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh, E4 Cupola, eat it. It just hits really hard, and it has the armor. You can see that E4 bounced off of with the gold rounds. The E4 bounced off the C3. But here we're on Banana Road of Himmelsdorf, and it's an all tier 10 game. And King Me of Me is showing us how it's done. He's using some gun depression. He's also tipping the tank up so that the cupola is harder to hit and stuff. He's got friends behind him, so this is crucial, right? If he were to be in here by himself, he would have a big problem because the reload is pretty long. He'd shoot one guy, they'd come right past him, they'd kill him. The entire rule of this tank is it's front toward enemy. Don't allow yourself to get flanked, and then just drop bombs. Be the problem, right? Because people have to deal with you, right? You can't just let an E3 live. And so now you see they're just trying their very best. Now this E5 is just oh my god, I don't know where the shot went, but again, now that since he has friends behind him, these guys can't push around or they'll die, so they can't deal with King and his E3, so he just gets to sit here and wait for the next reload and wait. There it is. Drop another 750 hit point bomb, and then we go ahead and wait a little bit more. Keep wiggling around because the armor is very good, but if you hold perfectly still, people will find the little weak spots, and I'll show you where those are in just a second. But here we are again, looking for it. Exactly. So that 60 TP held perfectly still, so we were able to find the weak spot, which apparently is that part of that tank's turret. I thought the 60 TP turret was pretty solid, and I think it is. I think if he'd been wiggling around, oh my god, this is just disgusting. So at this point now, there's a bunch of one-shots, and these tanks have decided, the allies have decided to push in, and so, we're going to progress the game a little bit here. You can see we're trying to get our last shot in. There we go, 680. So we just ate the entirety of an E3, of an E5, sorry, E5, and now the team has pushed around. They've won the top. Like, basically, this game is over now. And this is what the E3 can do. Like, we just drop another bomb. So we're at 5,000 damage in just a few minutes, just 2 minutes or so that we've been watching. And now we're gonna just try to get some more damage out of the thing. But this is the part that I really wanted to show. And now we'll get into the whole line and the more traditional, the way I normally do replays and stuff. But if you don't watch anything other than this kind of stuff is what this tank is all about. You're meant to be up front and pushing and shitting on things with your awesome gun. And if you are in the very, very back sniping on the red line, you are doing it wrong. So just stay like that. Not all tank destroyers are meant to snipe. Wait for it. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. So, all right, we'll get into the other stuff. Okay, so talking about the line of American tank destroyers that leads to the E3, I think at some point you have to go through the M8A1, which is fantastic. It's low key, like it's, for some reason, slides under the radar, but this tank is very, very overpowered, very broken. It's one of those tanks that I use when I need to get like the 4 kills in a game mission done, because this tank is really, really good. The key here is to use the 57mm gun and to bring a healthy amount of premium runs, because 180 penetration at tier 4 is just absolutely stupid. Right, and it's got really good. You don't even need a good crew, decent camo and camo paint and stuff, and you're at 42% stationary camo. Even after you shoot, is 12% camo at tier E4, by the way, where nobody has vision to see anything. So you have the ability to be the bushwanker, and you have really good penetration and really good DPM and so on and so forth. So the M8A1 is definitely, I keep it around for missions. It's definitely a tank that everybody should have. And then it's the next one is the Wolverine, which is another fantastic tank. I believe it has the option for a derp gun, but it's also got the 76, which is fantastic. It's just a good little pew pew. You drive around, you're doing the things, it's good. After that, on the E3 line, I believe is the Jackson, which I think is a little hidden gem at tier 6. It's got a little bit of turret armor. It's a little bit slower. It's slower than the Hellcat. It's got a little bit more armor than the Hellcat, but it's otherwise the gun is very similar. It's much more well behaved than the Hellcat, but it's also slower than the Hellcat. Did I already say that? I don't know. But I really like the Jackson. I've kept it. I enjoy the tank. I'm trying to remarket at some point, maybe. Imagine a T78, but a little bit slower and with a little bit better armor, and that's kind of the Jackson. So I like the tank. I think it's fantastic. Now at tier 7, I believe it's the T25 AT is the one that has the turret. That's not on the way. The T25-2 is the one that doesn't have it. Oh, I mixed it up. The AT does not have a turret, and that's the one on the way to the E3. Now, this is the turning point in the line, because up to this point, and including this one, there's no armor. I like this tank too, but a lot of people don't really care for it. I like it because it's got 10 degrees of gun depression. It's pretty fast. It's got like, what is it, almost 20 power to weight and a 56 top speed, and the gun is pretty solid. So it doesn't have a turret, but it's pretty quick, right? It's almost like you can almost play like a heavy support. There's not a lot of armor. You can almost take it to the medium tank areas because it's pretty fast. And yeah, people sleep on this tank. I don't know why. It's just tier 7 is not a very comfy tier to play, but I think the T25 AT is really, really good. I prefer it substantially over the T25-2. This is the one that has the turret. This is kind of just like a fat medium tank because it's just, I don't know, it has a 90mm gun, and it's just eh. But the AT is pretty good. It's just the tier 7 matchmaking sucks. As far as the premiums, I guess the T78 is really good. It's very similar to the Jackson, like I said. The T28 heavy tank concept is a shitbox. I like to pretend in my mind that I don't have this tank in my garage. The Super Hellcat is not very good and doesn't play like anything else in the line. The M56 Scorpion is not very good and doesn't play like anything else in the line. The TS5, now this tank is pretty solid, and it also plays a lot like a T28. The T28, now this is the point of the line where everything kind of slows down, right? So the T28 slows down substantially from the tier 7. You also get some armor, asterisk. Armor, of course, only works depending on what's shooting at you, right? Tier 10s are still going to cheese you in your T28. So for that reason, I did not keep my T28 after I grinded through it. I didn't really. It's fine, but it's not great. And the TS5 is good. I like it. And then on the way to the E3 is the T95. This is called the Doom Turtle because it's very slow. And I probably should do a video just about this one, honestly, but it's very slow and it's got really good frontal armor and so on and so forth. And it's got not the exact same gun as the tier 10, but it does hit for 750. So it's going to go really slow and it's going to be inexorable. Come around that corner, you're going to take 750 to the face. And it's got really small weak spots and really good armor. So they call it the Doom Turtle. So I kept the tier 9, the T95, because I also thoroughly enjoy it. And then you get the E3, the fantastic E3. And I want to point out one thing here. So I'm going to talk about the tank and the good things and the bad things. First of all, the main good thing is the gun, right? 295 standard penetration is fantastic, and the premium rounds are among the best in the game, right? The best in the game for penetration is the Jaegeru. The heat round on the Jaeger is 420 ridiculous millimeters of heat pen. You can just right-click, left-click on a mouse, basically, and just pen that all day. And then from there, it's the Chinese tank destroyers that have like 395 heat pen, which again is absurd. But then just below that is these tanks that have the E3 and the E4 have the same gun, where they have 375 APCR penetration, which is again fantastic. And just as a reference to how fantastic it is, you might be looking at yourself, and we talked about just a second ago about how good the armor is on the T95, right? Oh, look at how good it is. And this video isn't about the T95, but we're gonna compare this. I'm gonna show you what happens when a T110E3 taps 2 and is facing a T95. Look at that! All of a sudden, all of a sudden that armor that you thought you had in a T95 and that almost everybody needs to respect, E3s don't give a shit about the armor of most things. And so you can tap 2 and just cheese a T95. So this is the power of the T95 gun, or of the T110E3 gun. So the real highlight is it's all about the armor and it's all about the gun. You are a problem, right? You're a problem that needs to be dealt with, and you can't be as long as you put yourself in a situation. It's all about like reading the map and figuring out where best to position, because it is very slow. That's the drawback, is it's very slow. The armor on the sides isn't that great. Actually, for that reason, I would say that the T95 is probably better tier for tier than the E3, because the T95 armor is actually a little bit more reliable, despite what I just showed you with the E3 cheesing it. I'll get into the armor of the E3, but the E3, the armor can be excellent, but just like anything else, there's just so many really, really powerful tanks at tier 10 that E3's, nothing is for certain. Nothing is certain in an E3 at tier 10, right? But generally speaking, the DPM is decent. The alpha is fantastic. The soft stats are okay. They're pretty solid. Of course, you can't, you're not meant to be shooting on the move, and you're meant to be close, right? You're not meant to be sniping. So 0.35 usually gets it done for me. Let me see here. Top speed is very slow. Turbo is required. Reverse speed is catastrophically bad. Again, turbo is required. It's very slow. Power to weight is bad. Gun depression of 8 is actually pretty okay. The traversive, the gun arc is kind of narrow. -8 to 8 on either side is not great. But again, these are the things that have to happen, because you get this. You get 305 millimeters of hull armor, which is really, really good. And 390 base view range. I will say that the crew layout, the T110E4 and E3 and E4, both the tank destroyers have this same crew layout where they have 2 loaders. And so it kind of sucks moving up the line, because the T95, the one before this, only has 1 loader. So you go from your 4-man crew to a 5-man crew. So it kind of sucks for crew training, but tough it out. It's okay. You're in an E4 or you're in an E3. Go into the armor, and now this is the shit right here. So you're looking at this and you're like, wow, that's really good. And you're right, it is really good. The armor is really great. It's got this typical American boat-shaped hull, where the way that you pen an E3 is the lower plate. Well, I'll tell you some other things here, but the E3 gets penned in the lower plate, but you have to hit something flat, right? This is an E3 shooting itself. What if we have, I don't know, some tier 9, a Yag Tiger. Okay, so you can see a Yag Tiger shooting AP rounds. Yeah, you can pen the lower plate, but you have to hit something square. You have to hit something flat. And so it's very easy if you're looking at it like this. A lot of people will try to aim for some part of the plate that looks flat but isn't. You can see how quickly you go from definitely going to go in to definitely not going to go in. So because what I'm trying to get at here is the armor is very trollish because it's all roundy, right? So you want to hit something flat on the lower plate if you can, or if you, this is the part that I want to talk about. So generally speaking, that's how you do it. The cupola, if you are above the tank, the armor on the roof is very weak, right? And so this is the thing. The E3 armor is fantastic when you're front toward enemy and you're hull down, and it also depends on what's shooting at you, because a Jaegeru doesn't really need to aim a lot and stuff, and you can also pen one of these things by shooting just here, just above the cupola, right? You can pen that. An E3 can pen another E3 in the cupola if you aim a little bit. But if you are face hugging one of these things, this is important. These little roundy bits, and they're obscured. I'll show you how to see these things. This is a frontal weak spot, and I have killed E3s that obviously didn't know about this before. Here's how you can tell. The visual, it's hidden by these little lights, the inside lights. If you aim at the little lights, you'll see your reticle turn green, and then you shoot there, and you'll pen. And that's where it is. That's how you pen an E3 frontally without having, even when he's hull down. But this is a big one here, because this is an easy pen. It's 180 penetration, or 180 average armor thickness. So that's tier 8s. Tier 8s can pen this, right? Now, the drawback, of course, is that you need to be really effing close, and you need to be at the front of an E3 to do this. So this is not the ideal thing, but just know that this exists and this is an option. And if you're above it, a lot of times this is an option where you're above something and you just shoot the roof, right? All of this is now not very good. As soon as you are above it and not angled perfectly, It's also worth noting, never ever side scrape in your E3, right? You might be tempted to do one of these things and poke out and so on and so forth, and do one of these things around a corner and try to bait some shots. If the players you're playing against aren't very good, this can work. But if they know what they're doing, any E3 that's side scraping like this, the side armor is not very good, right? The armor behind the tracks is only 44 millimeters thick, right? And so what that means is, as soon as you do one of these, if I see an E3 do this, I shoot him right here in the drive wheel, and that tracks him and and damages him every time. So never ever side scrape. Always put front toward enemy, even if they're giving you just this little bit. Just this little bit. You're gonna see you're gonna go in. You're gonna go in every time. So just never side scrape in an E3. You'll be happy. But you can see how quickly the armor falls off, right? Especially if you don't know about this. You know, you've got this kind of thing, and so you really just, the armor is in the front and it's really good. But that's about it. It's not very good anywhere else. If you, God forbid, you get the side of one of these things or the back of one of these things, you just tap 3, start shooting HE all day. And of course, artillery is going to shit on you because that's what it does. But generally, the armor, it can work. It is very good. Again, with anything in this game, armor only depends on what is shooting at you, right? If you have a Jaeger who's shooting heat, all of a sudden now your armor is less important. It's not going to do as much as it would have before, and that's just part of the game. It's still bait, you know, you can still bait shots and hope and maybe out trade, or maybe out trade, but like out DPM. But this is a Jaeger shooting heat. But again, this is just part of the game. It is what it is. There are downsides. Just don't let the Jaeger shoot you. It's easy enough. So, or make him punish him for shooting you. Make a bunch of your friends shoot him as well. But yes, that's the armor of the E3. Get back here to the stats, and we'll get into the equipment and the field mods. For the field mods, always suspension, always reinforced suspension here, always parallax adjustment. Always the right angle periscope. I mean, I want view range, and I don't care about concealment. If you care about concealment and you're E3, you're playing it wrong, just straight up. This one is debatable. I think I picked survivability. I didn't really use either one of these, but this is you could probably go for this. I would probably do this. For this one, I am probably picking plus to the hit points and to the protection of crew, because that's like, the reload is long enough. It's like 16 seconds or something like that, right? So you're going to have a rammer on this thing and so on and so forth. Like the 3% reload is not as important as more hit points, because this is basically a heavy tank just with no turret and a big stupid gun. As for the last one, I didn't pick either one of these because I do not want... Okay, here's why this matters. If you have a crew that has repairs, and you... My God, you definitely should, right? And let's just say you're even running food and you're like me. You've got like... you've got a full repair crew, and that takes it to 6 seconds, right? 6.2 seconds, which is kind of a long time. It feels like forever, right? But it's okay. So if you say, all right, I'll take my, I'll like, you know, I want more reverse speed, so I'll do this. Now all of a sudden that takes your repair speed tracks to over 7 seconds. And that really is an eternity. This is too long. So I don't want that. And now you're saying, well, oops, why don't you fix that? Yeah, look at that. We're down to 5.4 seconds. That's great. But now you're losing on reverse speed. Reverse speed is crucial, right? If the enemy starts pushing you, like in that clip that we showed before, if King had not had all those teammates behind him, so that those tanks would have pushed around, having the ability to back up around a corner can mean the difference between doing an extra shot or two of damage and just being totally screwed. So I'm not doing this. I didn't pick either one of these things, and I don't think you should either. Yeah, so that's that. And as far as equipment, this is very debatable, and there are definitely a lot of right answers. So what I run this thing with is, I think if you don't have any pink equipment, I would say rotation mechanism in the improved slot. So that'll help you get your gun on target, right? Because this thing is kind of sluggish. You want to be able to get the gun turned around a corner. You want to be able to put it on target, not get circled, right, by wheelies or light tanks or fast medium tanks. And this is going to help you not get circle strafed to death. I also run a rammer, and then I also have I have a turbo. I think you should have a turbo. I have a purple turbo, and this is a great purple or pink turbo. This is a perfect candidate for those things, because this is a tank destroyer, and it's slow, so it needs the top speed, and also it doesn't have a mobility slot, so the bonuses that you get are even more important. I need this, right? I need Even the purple one is great because now we're talking about 30 top speed up from 24. That's huge. 12 reverse speed up from 8. That's the 50% increase. That's huge. So this is what I would do. In fact, you saw when it was spinning in the garage, I have the rammer on this one, and I have a pink rotation mechanism because I bought one of those when I thought that was a really good idea, and now it's here. So this is how I would do it. But also, you know, again, there's a lot of ways. The two things that I think are probably going to stay important: the turbo you have to keep, right? That just has to be there. I think if you put a rotation, or if you put a hardening in the improved slot, I don't think that's the wrong choice, because that also helps your track repair speed and everything else. That's probably not wrong. And in that case, maybe since you've already got your track repair speed going awesome, then maybe you do this then. Maybe in that case, then you would pick this one, so you have an additional, like, this repair speed is balancing out some of the bonus you're getting from this, and you're also getting more reverse speed, because reverse speed is so important. It's huge, especially with something slow that's meant to be near the front. So I guess if you ran the improved hardening to offset some of the repair speed, I think then you could pick this, but otherwise I wouldn't. And then I think you're probably still either going to have a rammer, right? Because you're cutting off, you know, you're getting down now, you're cutting off like a second and a half of reload time. Or I have seen people do it where they have the improved aiming and no rammer, and that means, you know, even though you're meant to be playing close, don't take this to mean that you're supposed to be sniping. You're not supposed to be sniping in an E3. But even just doing this allows you to hit even more weak spots, even more reliably. You saw in the little clip that we had there, he was struggling a little bit hitting some of the things. I'm not going to say this is the wrong answer. I don't run it this way, but there's a lot of right answers. There's a lot of things you can do with this. So, you know, I just, one thing I would definitely worry about, or the one thing I would say is just I'm not worried about camo. This is not a camo thing, and I wouldn't necessarily worry about view range really either, because it's got 390 base view range, by the way. If your crew is in any way competent, it's not hard to get up to pretty good decent view range anyways, because of the crew layout. So like it's all about brawling. You should be up front. You shouldn't need necessarily, like, obviously vision is always important, but I wouldn't focus on that with your equipment. Maybe with an alternate loadout if you want to do that, you know, if you maybe want to have one set up for like when you have Prokhorovka. But that's it. Let's get into the game, the real game, the whole game. All right, so we're going to start out watching Trickster 22LR playing in his T110E3 on Prokhorovka. It's an all tier 10 game. There are no artillery in the game. We got a wheelie boy on each side. This is a pretty decent matchup for an E3, and I like this map, and so we'll just see what happens here. And you notice Trickster is going to post up here because we expect to see light tanks and all kinds of things shooting or skirting along this ridge. So really good use of situational knowledge and map knowledge of knowing where people tend to be and pre-aiming those spots. These are things that are crucial to understand for for somebody who plays these tanks, because they are kind of slow. And again, you need to plan your route, your pathing. How you get from point A to point B is important. You can see now that Trickster has decided that there's probably not another light tank going to crest that ridge. He's going to go straight to the spot he wants to go in, and he's going to try to get down in this little depression as quick as he can. He doesn't want to cut straight to where that STB is, because otherwise you're going across a level of area that your side would be to the enemy, and you'd be easy to shoot. So pathing is huge. Also, I'd like to say I apologize for the lack of engine sounds in this replay, and also you can notice that the tracks aren't moving. The tracks aren't moving. It just looks like there's a little model of an E3 skating across the ground. And there's also some messed up, like I think the Kronvang has some messed up stuff in this replay. And, you know, I apologize for that. There's nothing I can do about it, but it's Wargaming is a fairly new indie developer, and it's a pretty new game, so it's you know, you gotta cut them some slack. Let them, it is what it is. You know, eventually they'll fix these bugs, I think. And, you know, when they finally release the game, I'm sure all these issues will be ironed out. But notice now that there's not a lot of, like, the 268 and then 183 are on this side of the map, but they're not really in a position to shoot unless things go across, right? As the enemy progresses down the zero line, oh, that was an HE round. As the enemy progresses down the zero line, the 268 isn't going to have shots, right? So it's basically a Kronvang and an STB, and then there's a TVP by us. And so it's not surprising that that Trickster has chosen not to push further up. And I know earlier in the game I said this is not a tank for sniping, and I don't think that that's really what Trickster is doing. I don't understand how that didn't pen. I don't understand. I saw that shot and it looked good. Looked good to me, but okay. Trickster is not sniping necessarily, but he's putting himself like look at this Kronvang. It's like the some kind of an alien thing with a little dinosaur. So he's putting himself where he can still support things, because that's the other thing that you can do in an E3 is be the anchor, right? The E3 is being the anchor right now, where if they, when he was trying, there was just too many, right? If there had been a couple E3s maybe here, that would have been enough of a deterrent maybe, where our Kronvang wouldn't have gotten pushed by those guys because there's 2 E3s behind him. You know, you can be the anchor. You need to be close enough that you can shoot the things, but not so close that you can get flanked, right? And so that's part of the reason I support this decision. Being where he is right now, he is Trickster is anchoring this entire side, right? If Trickster wasn't here, those guys would be pushing down the 0 line, flanking the 268, and you basically would have lost the entire map, right? There's nowhere you can be. And you can see, if you're just sitting there and these guys are just going to let you shoot them, then you have the ability to, the gun is fairly accurate. And so this is one of the things, and now that he's hull down, none of these tanks really have the penetration to, oh my gosh, none of these tanks that he's facing really have the penetration to contest him from the front, right? There's not like, I don't know where the Jaegeru is, but the Jaegeru's not here. You know, maybe the E3, it would just be a tough shot. So you can feel, you can feel fairly comfortable, and because the reticle is very close to the hillside, that's how you know that he's pretty well hulled down. Here we go again. Super Conk is just sitting there letting you cheese his cupola. I don't understand. That guy must not know how to play a Super Conk armor is pretty okay, but as soon as you just like sit there and let people shoot you, then all of a sudden it's not so okay. Not so okay anymore. And look at the bombs. You're just able to drop bombs in the E3, and these guys, they have to respect you. What are you gonna, like, this is why it's so powerful, is what are these guys gonna do? Are they gonna push in? Because nobody wants to be the next one to take the 750 damage hit, right? Nobody wants to be the guy that takes the slapping, especially because if, you know, now we have somebody else that's come over here, another heavy tank has kind of dropped in, so now there's even more support. Oh, let's see, we'll reload and see if we can get this cupola. Now there's even more support. We're being anchored. Oh, we're even being anchored by an IS-7 who's come out wide. So even if they were to push around us, we would have the crossfire set up from that IS-7. Really great idea by that guy, especially because the 1-2-3 line is stalled just like it always fucking does. So this is really a good setup, right? They have a lot of their guys in this area of the map, in the forest, the magic forest. However, they're not really doing anything with it, and they can't because there's an E3 backed up by an IS-7 and a TVP. This is kind of like the dream squad, and they're just stupidly just sitting here letting Trickster mow them down. And I don't know if you've been paying attention. We've been in the game for a little while, and he's already at 5,600 damage. Some of these blind shots might have hit, but it doesn't matter. Even whether they did or didn't doesn't matter. Still, so far, just the damage adds up really fast, just like it always does with anything that hits for 750. You don't have to connect very many times, and then you've already had a pretty good game. And that's what I was saying before, when it's like, okay, you know, having extra reverse speed can make you get an extra shot of damage. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but 750 more damage is a big deal, and that can be the difference between winning a game and losing the game. So we're going to skateboard forward across the map, right? Our little toy E3. Because the TVP has gone up there and hasn't been spotted, it seems like the enemy team has kind of learned their lesson that the way is shut, right? They've thrown 2.5 tanks or whatever at this problem and it hasn't gone away. So they've decided to come back, even though our 2-line guys do seem to maybe be doing things. Hard to say exactly. There's so many unspotted things. I mean, I kind of get why the 1-2-3. I mean, they're going to change this map supposedly someday, because somebody pinged it already. There's always a tank destroyer sitting at C1, and that just shuts down any push that you can possibly have. And the same could be said for the J1 H1 area. There's just these overarching tank destroyer spots that are just really, really good, and it's hard to push through that. So we're going to take Trickster is taking kind of an aggressive line here. When I like to push the Magic Forest, I go low, right? I like to take the 0 line, the low line, because otherwise you can be flanked, right? If you don't control the low side, then somebody can get down in the low side and flank around you. So that's why it's important to clear this area first. And it's also worth noting you have to pay attention because you're in a slow tank that only has armor on the front. It's really important that you be aware of where your teammates are, right? And so the IS-7 has kind of gotten distracted by the wind blowing. A leaf, you know, there's been a change in direction of the wind. So basically he's just off by himself doing something over there. So all of a sudden Trickster is by himself, right? Suddenly now there's an E3 that's isolated. And so this is not great. It's still a full health E3, but there's enough tanks in the game right now that like this is still, you got to be really careful. And so Trickster is gonna, again, everything about this part I'm not, I think Trickster makes a mistake and maybe he'll realize it soon, but wait, aim. Yahtzee, 800 damage off of the mouse. You just send them down range, and man, when they behave, it just really behaves. Now, luckily, we do have this building here, so that really helps things feel a little bit better, right? You're not literally just out in the open. But also, we haven't cleared the entire zero line, and certainly there's tanks on the A line in the back. So it's a little bit, he's kind of put himself in a little crossfire, and then, you know, he shot the mouse, which means if he ever gets lit, the mouse can shoot him back. So I don't know if he realizes it yet, but I think he might have made a mistake here. But so far, nobody in the enemy team has capitalized on it. I don't think they realize that he's here and who, you know, they don't realize who is and isn't here with him. So for now, we'll just kind of wait. It's all about being patient, right? You can see we had a 1-2-3 line push, and it kind of crapped out because they pushed into a pair of Sturivs. They were in a really good crossfire position. So I think Trickster might have been trying to get out, but he realized, you know, he was spotted. So now all of a sudden we need to push forward to be up against this hard cover and also that building of soft cover to keep the mouse and those guys from over there from turning and shooting him. And now the STB, our worst fears have come to pass. The STB is now over there doing STB things on a ridgeline. This is exactly not what you want to have happen. So now you're kind of at the mercy of your team, right? It would be great if this IS-7 would pull his head out of his butt and come over here and help us. But since he's not, we can't make him. And so you're kind of stuck. And this is kind of the drawback of being in an E3, right? I like the tank, but you really need to, you're kind of at the mercy of the team because you need friends. And so it really is helpful to platoon up. And so you know for sure that you can coordinate. And also you're very slow. So it's very hard to reposition, right? If the idiots on your team have decided to throw one whole side of the map like they have on the E2, on the 2 line, you can notice there that we've got nothing on now the 1-2 line. That's wide open. You know, if you were in something faster, then maybe you could come back over there and strengthen that whole side and you could fix it, right? But an E3 doesn't have that option, right? You kind of, this and the Doom Turtle, right? The Doom Turtle is the same kind of thing. You just need to be, get the gun on. Yahtzee. Oh my God. When you're in these tanks, it's kind of a Zen experience where you just sort of need to accept the fact that you can't fix the problems on the other side of the map, right? And notice how we're going to back up, so we're more hull down. And if you're hull down, you just have to know the STB-1 doesn't have that great a penetration, so you don't really have to worry about being penned when you're hull down. It's really only tier 10 tank destroyers that even have a chance. But again, we knew that Kranvang was there, and as soon as Trickster had exposed his side to try to dip down in this low spot, then you know, the Kranvang poked up and tagged us once. Still very healthy though. But you can see this is kind of awkward, right? We have an STB. It's a very mobile medium tank, and now it's actually a little bit on the hillside above us. So in theory, thankfully the TVP has decided to come over here and care and try to help, but he's also a one-shot for the STB, so he can't really get in. And if this STB did some, like, let's say it was just us against this STB, he would probably get around us and flank us and stuff, or maybe even, oh, and now it is just us. This is really great. This is not good. So now this is kind of a problem because not only is he a fast mobile medium tank and we are alone in a turretless tank destroyer, he's also kind of above us, right? So you noticed on the armor model from before, if you're shooting down at an E3, you can put rounds through the turret, the roof of the turret very, very easily. And so this is a big thing to watch out for. So this is very awkward. And the reason I showed this replay, of course, is it's a great game, but it also shows the strengths. You know, he was the problem that needed to be dealt with before when they were pushing in, but it also shows the weaknesses where right now, if he doesn't play this perfectly, this STB could just eat him, right? All it takes is getting tracked twice Then ASTB gets around the side of you, and then it's over. So these are the drawbacks, and you really kind of rely on your team. I'm surprised that the STB ran away, because he must not have realized that help wasn't really there, right? The IS-7 is just now finally deciding to maybe care a little bit, but, you know, that could have been a very, very bad situation. And we're still at 6-6, so we can't really, I don't know, it just, there's not really, okay, this helps a lot. So now we're down, that one's down, and we got an E4, we know where it is, and Strivet A3. There's still an unspotted E3, right? That's, I think, the big thing that's hanging everybody up, is nobody wants to take the E3 shot from the unspotted enemy E3. But it's 2 minutes left, so what are you gonna do, right? You got 1,800 hit points. That's, you can take a mag from a Cran and a shot from the STB, right? But as soon as we got this IS-7, I think do something, right? As soon as this IS-7 comes around, then we know we're not completely alone. So, okay, there we go, and then we spot the Kronwagen, and again, ignore the stupid, the model being all messed up. And the third-person view, I would not use that. I would have aimed that one in, but it is what it is. Our team seems to have decided to play the game, and so now there's just a Sturv at A3 and an A3 at A6, numbers and letters. Which, that's a really good, strong crossfire position. Luckily, we are charging forward as just as quickly as we possibly can at the speed of E3. And it doesn't seem like the grill is getting shot, so that must mean that the E3 has come this way, which I'm not surprised by. But it doesn't matter. We have 1,800 hit points, and it's either you do these things or you lose the game. So here we go. We're gonna aim. He rushed the shot a little bit, but luckily it went in. He had premium rounds loaded for this E3, and I would do the same thing, because E3 on E3 action, you just can't afford to bounce. And so you're gonna take the shot, and it doesn't matter. And aiming at the boat-shaped hull, just as the other team the other side of the map gets finished up. All right, so at the end of the game, Trickster ended up getting 4 kills, 8,900 damage, and 6,100 blocked. This is what an E3 is all about, right? That was a high caliber. The steel wall, he got an ace tanker. That ended up getting him 1,322 base XP, which is pretty darn awesome for a tier 10. And then he did end up making some money, right? He ended up making some 70,000 credits, but 50 of that was from a mission payout, and he also didn't have to pay for consumables. So he probably would have broken even if not for the missions. Which again, that's pretty good for a game like this in a tier 10. You don't usually make money at tier 10, so solid game. You don't need to shoot a lot of premium rounds in this thing to make it to be effective, because the E3 has such a great gun. But if you do, God, those premium rounds are awesome. So anyways, that is it. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.